May 20, 1916, at a whaling station on South Georgia Island, 3 men suddenly appear who were thought to have perished long ago. Their beards overgrown, their clothes torn to shreds, and their faces blackened from the brutal combination of cold and sun. Their condition so wretched that no one present could even recognize them, which makes perfect sense given that these 3 individuals had been presumed dead for 532 days. This is the story of Sir Ernest Shackleton, who had set out with 25 companions aboard a ship to explore Antarctica, the most unforgiving and perilous place on the planet, with the dream of reaching the Weddell Sea coast and crossing the entire continent on foot. A feat that had never been accomplished before. But the frozen world of Antarctica had other plans, subjecting them to trials beyond imagination as the ice sheets thickened so dramatically that their ship became trapped in the snow and ultimately sank before their very eyes, leaving 28 people stranded in the most desolate, frigid region on Earth, surrounded by nothing but snow, storms, and death, forced to survive on floating ice for months, with food and water running out rapidly, making decisions so harrowing that even recalling them sends chills down the spine, all while relying on their sled dogs to stay alive. This isn't merely an expedition tale, but rather an epic of human courage, extraordinary leadership, and sheer survival, where the line between life and death narrowed to a single wrong step each day. So join us on this journey, where death lurked at every corner, and where the greatest survival story in history unfolded, proving that when a person refuses to surrender, even the most unforgiving conditions must ultimately bow before their will. Antarctica, situated at Earth's southern pole and ranking among the 7 continents, stands as the coldest and harshest place on the planet, its waters surrounding it frozen solid and temperatures plunging below -50 degrees Celsius in many areas, creating an environment that seems almost inhospitable to human life. Yet this very danger sparked an irresistible excitement in certain individuals, and one such man was Anglo-Irish explorer Ernest Shackleton, whose obsession with reaching Antarctica burned like a passion within him. He had attempted it in 1901, but was forced to turn back 750 kilometers short due to terrible weather and brutal conditions. Then tried again in 1907, making it 2,000 kilometers, but still falling 150 kilometers shy of the continent, though this achievement was considered the farthest south record of that era and earned him immense popularity, culminating in a knighthood from King Edward III of the United Kingdom, after which he became known as Sir Ernest Shackleton. But even such honors couldn't quell the restlessness inside him or his burning desire to set foot on Antarctica. So in 1913 he devised a new expedition plan called the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition, announcing that this time he would not merely reach Antarctica, but would traverse the entire continent on foot, his strategy being that his ship would first sail to South Georgia Island, then cross the Weddell Sea to reach Vassell Bay on the Antarctic coast, after which he and his team would march across the continent via the South Pole to the Ross Sea. And to make this vision a reality, Shackleton purchased a Norwegian-built vessel named Endurance through fundraising, a 3-masted sailing ship equipped with a coal-fired steam engine for additional speed, capable of navigating through light pack ice, and then placed an advertisement in newspapers with the headline, "Men wanted for hazardous journey," which candidly stated that applicants would face intense cold, blizzards, and months of darkness with no guarantee of returning home. Yet despite these dire warnings, over 5,000 applications poured in from around the world, from which Shackleton carefully selected just 27 individuals, including sailors, carpenters, naval officers, doctors, engineers, and 6 scientists who would conduct Antarctic research. But this mission was as perilous as it was grand. This was an era without GPS, satellite navigation, or any modern communication. So navigation depended entirely on maps and instruments like sextants, where a tiny miscalculation could send them hundreds of kilometers off course. And to complicate matters further, World War I had erupted across the globe, yet Shackleton remained undeterred. And so on August 8, 1914, the Endurance departed from Plymouth, England, though the true journey only began 3 months later, when they reached South Georgia Island, the last human outpost before Antarctica, where Norwegian sailors warned them that the sea ice that year was far thicker and more dangerous than usual, urging Shackleton to reconsider, but he pressed onward, and on December 5, 1914, the Endurance left the whaling station at South Georgia and sailed into the stormy seas toward the world's most dangerous and mysterious continent, carrying 27 crew members along with Shackleton himself, plus 69 sled dogs and a cat named Mrs. Chippy, along with essential supplies, safety equipment, and 3 lifeboats, with the dogs kept on the ice to pull loads, the command structure placing Shackleton in overall charge. Frank Wild is second in command, Frank Worsley as captain, and Frank Hurley as the expedition's photographer and cameraman, tasked with documenting everything visually. And as they entered the Weddell Sea, one of the most hazardous marine regions on Earth, the skies were cloudy and the sun was nowhere to be seen. Yet the atmosphere aboard the ship remained remarkably cheerful as the crew laughed and joked with one another, unaware that they were embarking on a journey that was both romantic and treacherous, destined to become a survival story unlike any ever witnessed. The Weddell Sea, surrounded by Antarctica on 3 sides and thus covered with thick layers of sea ice, quickly began to trap the Endurance just 2 days after leaving the whaling station, reducing her speed dramatically as the ice grew thicker by the day, so that only 9 days out from South Georgia Island, the ship was completely stuck, and by December 14, a full 24 hours of ice had accumulated. Yet nobody lost hope as Shackleton believed the ice would break up in a few days, and indeed it did, with the snow melting on December 22 and the ship moving southward again for the next 2 weeks. But then on January 10, 1996, January 10, 1916, they reached near the Antarctic coast with their destination just 100 kilometers away, and on January 15, they encountered such strong sea ice that the crew considered climbing onto it and walking, but Shackleton insisted on pushing south to reach Vauxhall Bay, tragically miscalculating their position and steering them into even denser ice. A mistake that would soon turn their lives into a nightmare. And by the evening of January 17, fierce winds drove them off course toward the northeast, about 23 kilometers from their intended location, with the ice thickening once more, so that when the wind blew, they drifted in the wrong direction, and when it calmed, the ice held them fast, and this vicious cycle continued for days until finally, on February 14, Shackleton shut down the engines to conserve coal and ordered the crew to cut through the ice. But after many days of exhausting effort, they couldn't clear a path, the ice relentlessly tightening its grip on the ship. And with Antarctica's long, dark winter approaching, Shackleton realized they would be trapped here for months, knowing that without sunlight, the ice would thicken, and its pressure could crush the vessel. Yet there was nothing he could do. The open sea was too far. So on February 24, 1915, he made the difficult decision to cease all forward efforts and winter here, moving the dogs onto an ice dogloos and converting the ship's interior for winter conditions, hoping for a miracle like the one that had saved explorer Wilhelm Filchner in this same area 3 years earlier. And to keep his crew's spirits high, Shackleton organized various activities including moonlight walks, theatrical performances, games, and dog races to keep everyone's mind engaged and prevent their courage from faltering. About 6 to 7 months passed in this manner. But instead of improving, the situation worsened dramatically as the surrounding ice began to crack and apply immense pressure on the Endurance. Until one day, a massive ice floe collided with the ship with a deafening roar, breaking it in multiple places and creating huge holes in the stern, forcing Shackleton to make the most agonizing decision of all. He ordered the ship to be abandoned immediately because remaining on the sinking vessel for too long could cost them their lives. So all essential supplies and 3 lifeboats were removed, and Shackleton gave explicit instructions that each man could take only what was necessary for survival, leaving everything else behind. And within moments, 28 men were standing on the ice, the endless silence of Antarctica stretching before them, while their beloved Endurance slowly sank beneath the frozen surface. And there they were, in the middle of the desolate, icy wilderness. Their world had effectively ended, with no hope of rescue from anywhere, surrounded by nothing but ice, with the nearest land being Robertson Island far in the distance. And on October 30, 1915, Shackleton ordered his team to march forward, but the going was far more difficult than anticipated. After 3 grueling days of hauling lifeboats, luggage, and dogs across the treacherous ice, they had only managed to cover 2 miles, making it nearly impossible to continue. So Shackleton reluctantly called a halt and established a camp on a sturdy ice floe, naming it Ocean Camp, situated not far from the sinking Endurance, where they occasionally salvaged important items. But on November 21, 1915, the inevitable moment finally arrived when the Endurance completely vanished beneath the ice into the depths of the Weddell Sea, and Shackleton and his crew watched with tear-filled eyes as the ship that had brought them to the ends of the earth disappeared forever, leaving them with only the shifting ice sheet beneath their camp for support. At first, the ice floe drifted so slowly they barely noticed, but by late November, it had accelerated to about 11 kilometers per hour. Yet reaching land would still take an extremely long time. So in the 4th week of December, they decided to march toward Paulet Island, leaving Ocean Camp on December 23 and pulling heavy loads and 3 lifeboats across the snow. But after managing only 12 kilometers despite immense effort, exhaustion forced them to stop again and establish another camp on more solid ice, which they named Patience Camp. And now the real crisis began as food rations dwindled rapidly. Each man received just a single biscuit, some cocoa, and a bit of high-fat meat paste each day, occasionally supplemented by hunting seals and penguins, though that was rarely successful. And their bodies became so dehydrated and their throats so parched that even swallowing was painful, leading Shackleton to order everyone to eat raw seal meat to extract hydration from the blood. And the situation grew so desperate that they killed their beloved sled dogs, whose meat now became a vital part of their diet. And after being stranded for about 6 months, by the end of March 1916, they spotted some mountains in the distance. But the cruel twist was that they had actually drifted in the opposite direction from Paulet Island, because the constantly shifting winds had sent their ice floe on a meandering path, nature testing them at every turn. So Shackleton was forced to change their target, first considering Clarence Island, then King George Island, and finally settling on Elephant Island, which was about 160 kilometers to the northwest. And since the ice was flowing in that direction, the distance had shrunk to about 50 kilometers in just a few days. But a new danger emerged. The ice floe beneath their camp was rapidly thinning and could splinter at any moment. So Captain Frank Worsley navigated as the men worked tirelessly for 80 hours, with many falling sick from hunger and contaminated water. while more than half were mentally broken and had lost all courage. But the healthy ones kept rowing, and after 7 consecutive days of paddling, they finally reached Elephant Island on April 16, 1916, setting foot on solid ground for the first time.